sometimes being vulnerable is a superpower. And when we think of vulnerability, it's not exactly looked upon as a strength. It's actually looked at as a weakness, because that's how we're conditioned to think of it as. And vulnerability is a big thing to work on, especially in the next few months. And when I mean vulnerability, it means being more honest with yourself, looking inward more at what is holding you back from certain things in your life, or certain thought patterns and beliefs that really don't serve you in the long run. And a lot of these things can stem from personal trauma, social conditioning, seeking the familiarity, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but being afraid to break out of that familiarity, because familiar is comfort. That's how we learn it as. And that's kind of a human condition that we all have on some level. That's why it's sometimes hard to branch out. It's hard to get out of the comfort zone, because if it were easy, we'd all be doing it. And it's almost like you go out into the world and you never know really what you're stepping into. Yes, you might have an idea of what to expect, but there's so many different things that can go in so many different ways. But when we come home to what is supposed to be our sanctuary, we have a familiarity, a comfort. We know that the people there are going to love us, or we'll have that favorite pet that will come to greet us at the door, or we'll be able to have that cup of tea that we really like, or wear the comfortable clothes, or watch that program, or just be in solitude and relax and get away from all the collective energy. And in itself, that is okay. There are some familiar things that are a good thing for our lives. They give us strength to carry on with the things that aren't that easy. But in it lies a balance. When we allow familiar behaviors or familiar patterns to hinder us and restrict us from different experiences, or venturing out into things that will serve us better, then there lies the problem. And it's not always easy to get out of that frame of mind. It wasn't easy for me, and I still have to wrestle with this from time to time. When I get comfortable and I really like something, it makes it harder for me. When it's familiar and it's something I don't like, I'm at that point in my life I'm more likely to break out of it. But there was once upon a time, even with familiar circumstances and falling into bad behaviors or bad relationships or what have you, that was something that wasn't new to me. And for me personally, it came out of a thing where getting out of bad relationships when I was younger, being abandoned and being left because I wasn't interesting enough, or I wasn't pretty enough, or I had a physical disability people didn't like or weren't attracted to. And it really was an issue that they had. It wasn't an issue I had. But it came to the point, being in the mindset I took that as there was something wrong with me. And that became a repeating pattern, because when I would get in a relationship, even though I was excited, I would put my all into it, I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was always waiting for the bad news to come. And it wasn't always a conscious thing. It was a subconscious thing most of the time. I always had that fear, the little panic. I didn't go crazy or anything, but the fear was there. So it would make me try harder. And sometimes I tried too much. And it was a really interesting phenomenon that after I got out of my first marriage, which was very narcissistic, very controlling and all that, and abusive, it was really interesting as I healed after that, what I came to terms with. I realized that, yes, there was stuff I had to work on within myself to heal those traumas, to heal that pattern that I have become so accustomed to. But there also, in that, there was nothing wrong with me because of the way they reacted or the way they treated me. That was something they were wrestling with. And it doesn't excuse or condone anything, the way things went down, but it was something that they haven't worked on within themselves. So they were carrying on in a way that they were familiar with that wasn't exactly constructive or loving or nurturing. I was blessed to have a second marriage that he was very loving, very nurturing. He had been through some bad marriages as well. And when we got married, that was the second time for me, it was a whole 180 from the first one. And I don't blame anyone. I've already forgiven, not necessarily for him, but for myself, because I was able to move on and to let go after a whole bunch of healing, which my second husband really helped me through. Going back to the vulnerability and the abandonment issue I had, it was really interesting because you might have heard me say this before. After he passed, the abandonment wound I had, thought I had healed, came back with a vengeance. And even though that was no fault of his own, obviously, couldn't help that, I felt that abandonment issue again. I felt panicked. I felt, after everything was said and done, I just felt like, oh, okay, no matter how good it'll be, they're going to leave in one form or another. So I went back into that familiar conditioning and that thought pattern, and it was kind of sad in a way. Part of it was I had to go through that to get through the grief process. I wasn't in shape to get into any relationship. And fast forwarding now, after healing from that loss, he's very much in my heart, always. But it was very interesting how that thought pattern popped up again. Sometimes our inner work is a continuing process with certain things. Some lessons we learn really quickly, and others may repeat a few times. And that is okay. We all learn at our own pace. And that's what it was for this abandonment issue that I had. And it was really, really surprised me that it popped up. But looking back at the loss I had when he passed, it makes a lot of sense, given the history of throughout my life. So fast forwarding to now, I'm in a long distance relationship. Eventually it won't be long distance, but for now it is. And it's such a loving, beautiful connection. He and I have both been through stuff, and I think it helps us bond even stronger together because we understand one another and where our thought patterns are coming from and how to support one another. But other than that, it's a very healthy relationship because we support each other, we love one another, we have fun together, we laugh together, and laughter is such a high vibrational energy. We all need that in our life. And also, we support one another in our individual endeavors. We don't have to be solely dependent on one another to have a fulfilling relationship. And I learned that too. I used to be codependent and all that. And luckily I learned early on that that's not the way to go. But, the remnants of that's still there along with the abandonment issue. And I think that's what made me codependent for the most part. And now I'm not codependent anymore. And it's nice to have the support to pursue my individual endeavors and what makes me happy. It's very fulfilling to support him in his as well. And it just makes the whole experience that much more fulfilling. So why I'm talking all about this, basically familiarity has its pros and cons. Even in business, especially the business I'm in, we're always pushing the envelope. We're always trying to get out of our comfort zone. And we stress this as being very important. Because in order to grow, whether it's spiritually or mentally or business-wise, what have you, we have to get out of our comfort zone. We have to step out of that familiarity. And is it scary? Oh yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's really difficult to do that, especially when you're so accustomed to thinking a certain way, and that in itself is familiar. We have to get familiar with the unfamiliar, and that sounds kind of funny, but it's so true, because that's the only way we grow. That's the only way we can have change. That's the only way we can step into a better experience that will serve us in our lives, as well as the people around us. Sometimes when we do these things to add value to the world, we're empowering other people to do the same. Again, it's a ripple effect. So I just had this on my mind today. I wanted to share it with you guys for what it's worth, just to maybe encourage you to take that little step out of your comfort zone today, or maybe take a look at yourself in an uncritical way. Don't judge yourself, be gentle with yourself, but also be honest with yourself and see maybe there's some patterns you're repeating because they are familiar. Do they serve you? Is there something you could do, maybe just a tiny baby step, to get out of that familiarity and enrich your life experience? And that can be business or personal, whatever resonates for you. And I sometimes have to check in with myself and say, hey, is there a real reason for why I'm doing this or why I'm not doing this? Or am I just sinking back into the familiarity because I'm afraid, or I don't think I'm good enough, or what have you? There are a lot of different reasons why we do it. And again, we shouldn't judge ourselves because we're doing the best we can with where we're at with what we have. But in turn, we always should look to learn. We should always look to grow, even if it's a small thing every day, because that will lead us to bigger, more brighter experiences, things that will serve us in different ways. We can add value to the world as well. So thank you for watching this video or listening to this on my podcast. I really want to get the message out there and hopefully empower more people to take a step in the right direction and empower themselves. So please click like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. It would really, really mean a lot to me. And it also will get the message out to more people who might need to hear it. Until the next time, to know yourself is to know your truth. Namaste. Timmy's at the window right now and he's chittering at the birds. He's been very talkative lately, the past couple weeks. I don't know if you guys can hear it. It's so funny. He's so cute. He's like, and it's very fulfilling for me to support him. It's very fulfilling.